Namaskar. Welcome to the episode on tourist attractions and activities in Egypt, Kenya and Uganda. In continuation to tourism in African continent, I would like to welcome you for the lecture on popular tourist attractions in well-known tourism countries of Africa. In this episode, we are discussing about some of the popularly known attractions from the African countries of Egypt, Kenya and Uganda. This can be discussed in 5 segments: Introduction to tourism in Egypt, tourist attractions in Egypt, Introduction to tourism in Kenya, tourist attractions in Kenya, and the Introduction to tourism and popular tourist attractions in Uganda. Now, firstly, coming to the introduction to tourism in Egypt. Egypt is a frontline country among the popular tourist destinations in African continent. Egypt, known for its old pharaohs civilization sites, millennium-old monuments like pyramids and Great Sphinx of Giza, rich history and culture, Nile River Delta and widespread red sand desert. Tourism is one of the major sources of revenue and employment generator for the country's economy. Tourism has provided employment to about 12% of Egypt's workforce and contributing approximately 11% to national GDP. Tourism in Egypt faced a tough time in between 2011 to 2013. The 2011 Egypt revolution, several protests and attacks on foreign journalists have negatively affected on tourism and tourist arrival in the country. Total tourist arrival to country has been drastically declined in 2011-2013 periods. After 2013, the stability in political condition and some of the policies have come up with improvement in tourism, and again tourism industry is flourishing in Egypt. Best season to visit Egypt is winter and spring, which is from mid-October to May. From May to mid-October, temperature is high in most parts of the country. Facts and figures about Egypt. Capital city, Cairo. Largest cities, Cairo and Alexandria. Area, 10,02,450 square kilometer. Population, 8,68,95,099. Languages spoken, Arabic. Currency, Egyptian pound. Tourist attractions in Egypt. Pyramids of Giza. The pyramids of Giza are the last surviving of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and are one of the world's most recognizable landmarks. They were built as tombs for the mighty pharaoh's kings and are guarded by the enigmatic sphinx of half lion and half human structures. Giza's pyramid complex has wowed travelers down the ages and has had archaeologists trying to explain its mystery over how they were built for centuries. These pyramids, which act as megalithic memorials to dead kings, are still an amazing monument to see. They are an undeniable highlight of any Egypt trip, and Giza's pyramids should not be missed. Luxor's Karnak Temple. An ancient temple, the Temple of Karnak, dates to the period of around 2055 BC to around 100 AD. It was earlier known as Ipet Isu, meaning most select or sacred of places by the ancient Egyptians. The Temple of Karna is a city of temples built over 2000 years, which is dedicated to the Theban triad of Amun, Mut and Khonsu. It is the largest religious building ever made, covering about 200 acres, that is 1.5 kilometers by 0.8 kilometers, and was a place of pilgrimage for nearly 2000 years. The Temple of Amun Ra is the most popular attraction at Karnak, which houses the world-famous Great Hypostyle Hall. Further down the river, the Luxor Temple contains the famous avenue of the Sphinxes along with a variety of vast structures and Jain statues. Their close proximity to the center of the Luxor tourist resort means these temples sit among Egypt's most popular tourist attractions. Abu Simbel. Abu Simbel is an archaeological site comprising two huge rock-cut temples in southern Egypt on the western bank of Lake Nasser. The dual temples were originally carved out of the incline throughout the reign of ruler Ramses the Great within the 13th century BC as a long-lasting monument to himself and his queen Nefertiti. The splendid temples in Abu Simbel become even more entrancing in the dark once the sound and light show lights up the facade with marvelous lighting, music and narration. Artists impressed by its history take you back thousands of years ago to indicate you how Ramses the Great dominated Egypt. A masterful spectacle, the show includes projections on the great and minor temple facade that show you how they once looked. The script is developed in 9 languages. Egyptian Museum. Home to a minimum of 120,000 items of ancient Egyptian antiquities, the Egyptian Museum is one among Cairo's prime attractions. Highlights include the objects from the grave of Tutankhamun and also the royal mummy room containing 27 royal mummies from pharaonic times. The light pink mansion is home to a stunning amount of exhibits. Upstairs is the golden glory of King Tutankhamun and also the fascinating royal mummies exhibits. However, really each corner you turn here is home to some wondrous piece of ancient art or statuary that will form a highlight of any other museum. Cruising the Nile River. Cruising the Nile River may be a popular means of visiting Upper Egypt. The Nile River has been Egypt's lifeline since past, and there is no higher means to trace the passage of Egypt's history than to follow the course of the Nile River. Majority of the Egyptian cruise ships travel the Luxor-Aswan route, which is safe, scenic and terminates at 2 of Egypt's most significant cities. Taking a felucca down the Nile River is an adventurous choice. Feluccas are sailboats that are used on the Nile River since antiquity. A felucca isn't quite as comfortable as a luxury liner. However, nothing will beat sailing during a quiet rig that was designed thousands of years ago. Valley of the Kings. Along with Giza, the Valley of the Kings is perhaps Egypt's most known tourist attraction. The burial place of many of the great pharaohs, the Valley of the Kings contains a myriad of ancient tombs carved into the limestone of the valley itself. Among the other highlights, travelers will discover the tomb of celebrated boy ruler Tutankhamun in addition to the tomb of Ramses the Great and Ramses IV. However, the important one that you just cannot miss is Hatshepsut's temple, which is fantastic. All of the tombs seem to have been opened and robbed in antiquity, aside from the famous tomb of Tutankhamun. Temple of Philae. Temple of Philae was made in 690 AD. Philae Temple is widely thought of to be the last ancient temple constructed in true ancient Egyptian style. It also happens to be one of the attractions included within the itineraries of nearly all Nile River cruise vacations. Philae Temple, which is nowadays a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was resettled in its entirety from its original location on Philae Island. to its current location on Agilkia Island. Dedicated to the divine goddess Isis, Philae Temple remains one of the best Egypt tourist attractions, and tourists are inspired to go to this ancient marvel during the day and also in the evening to witness the spectacular Philae Temple sound and light show. Islamic Cairo. The atmospheric narrow lanes of the capital's Islamic Cairo district are crammed full of mosques, madrasas, that is Islamic schools of learning, and monuments dating from the Fatimid through to the Mameluke eras. This is where you will find the labyrinth shopping souk of Khan el Khalili, where coppersmiths and artisans still have their tiny workshops and stalls are laden with ceramics, textiles, spice and perfume. Surrounding the market is a muddle of roads, home to some of the most beautiful preserved architecture of the old Islamic empires. There is a wealth of history here to explore. The Al-Azhar Mosque and the dazzling Sultan Hassan Mosque are worth visiting, including climbing to the roof of the ancient medieval gate of Bab Zuwayla for the best minaret panoramas across the district. Siwa Oasis. Siwa is the completely opposite to the hustle of Egypt's cities. This gorgeous little oasis, surrounded by date palm plantations and numerous freshwater springs, is one of the Western Desert's most picturesque spots. The town is centered on the ruins of a vast mud brick citadel. It is one of Egypt's most isolated settlements with 23,000 people, mostly ethnic Berbers. Located on an old date trade route, Siwa was an oasis vital to the trade route, as the natural springs and shade giving palm trees gave travelers respite from the desert. With the collapse of the Roman Empire, Siwa began to decline. In recent decades, tourism has become a vital source of income. Much attention has been given to creating hotels that use local materials and play on local styles. Saint Catherine Monastery. The monastery of Saint Catherine is the oldest continuously inhabited monastery in the world, and its library has the largest religious collection after the Vatican. It was built by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian in the 6th century AD, although there was already a church at the site of the burning bush erected by the Empress Helena in 330 AD. Byzantine Orthodox monasticism has even earlier roots, and the area is sacred to all three monotheistic religions, that is, Judaism, Christianity and Islam. The monastery was under the protection of the Prophet Muhammad, Arab and Turkish leaders and Napoleon, which helped to preserve it virtually undamaged. In the walled compound, there is a Fatimid mosque built next to the Orthodox Church, a rare coexistence of religions in today's world. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Introduction to tourism in Kenya. Kenya is located in Eastern Africa, bordering to Indian Ocean between the countries Somalia and Tanzania. Kenya is the most popular country for safaris, in fact the first country in African country to start wildlife safaris. Kenya, with some of world's best biodiversity areas like Masai Mara National Park, Amboseli National Park, is home for ecotourism and wildlife tourism activities. The great migration of animals called as wildebeest is most dramatic setup of national parks in Kenya and Tanzania put this country in a best mind of animal and nature lovers, TV channels for documentaries on wildlife and researchers. Kenya is not only popular for ecotourism but also famous for beautiful beaches on the coast of Indian Ocean, islands, sports tourism and rich culture of several tribes, mainly the Maasai tribe. Facts and figures about Kenya. Capital city Nairobi. Area 5,82,650 square kilometer. Population 32 million. Languages spoken English and Swahili. Currency Kenyan shillings. Tourist attractions in Kenya. Masai Mara National Game Reserve. The Masai Mara National Reserve is one of the leading tourist attractions in Kenya and one of the country's most popular game parks. It borders Tanzania and the Mara, which is the northern extension of the Serengeti National Park of Tanzania and forms a wildlife corridor between the two countries. In the local language, Mara means mottled, which refers to the play of light and shadow from the acacia trees and cloudy skies on the vast grasslands. The park is popular for the great migration when scores of wild beasts, zebra and Thompson's gazelle make a trip from the Serengeti from July through October. The weather here is moderate and mild throughout the year because of the park's altitude. Lamu Island. Lamu Island is located in Kenya's Lamu archipelago and has managed to stay untouched by the mass tourism that has affected Kenya's coastline. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and Lamu Old Town is Kenya's oldest continually inhabited settlement with its origins going back to the 12th century. Architectural features from the Arab world, India and Europe are evident, but there is also a visible Swahili technique involved. Doves dot the harbour, few motorized vehicles exist, and donkeys still roam the streets as they have done for generations. The popular attractions on the island include visit to Lamu Museum that exhibits the Swahili culture and the region's nautical history, the Donkey Sanctuary and Lamu Fort. Mombasa. Mombasa is Kenya's second largest city and has a history dating back for centuries. In fact, Mombasa is actually the earliest settlement in East Africa. There are coral reefs that fringe the coast for 480 kilometers and provide fantastic snorkeling and diving spots, especially at Mombasa Marine National Park and around Wasini Island. Fort Jesus is a historical monument and Portuguese-based fort and was built in the 16th century. This fort was a constant scene of battles from the 1600s to the early 1800s for the control of Mombasa. It is a coastal hub and beach lovers will find this destination worth visiting. Nairobi. Nairobi is Kenya's capital and largest city and is famous for its colorful colonial history. It is nicknamed the safari capital of the world as there are plenty of choices for adventure and wildlife safaris, including the Nairobi National Park, which is home to hundreds of species of birds. The Nairobi National Museum is a great transit spot to witness exhibits on the history of Kenya, its nature, culture and contemporary art. A visit to Nairobi is incomplete without visiting the Giraffe Center near the famous Giraffe Manor, where these long-necked creatures eat out of tourists' hands. Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya is located in the heart of central Kenya, and this huge mountain rises to 5,199 meters, an impressive 17,057 feet above sea level. It is the tallest mountain in Kenya by a long way and the second highest in Africa after Mount Kilimanjaro. It was first scaled in 1899 and it presents a worthy challenge to mountain climbers. The north side of Mount Kenya is best climbed in August and September, while the southern side is easily navigable by January or February. Mount Kenya is not just about the climb and the spectacular views, also has the different geological formations, diverse vegetation and glaciers. Mount Kenya National Park is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley runs from northern Syria to central Mozambique, a distance of around 3,000 miles. Within Kenya, the valley is home to around an incredible 12 volcanoes and 7 lakes which can thrill the tourist. One of the major Kenya attractions here is Lake Nakuru, famous for its fabulous flamingos and an ideal spot for bird watching. Moving further up the valley, you will arrive at Lake Bogoria, Kenya's version of the Yellowstone Park, with geysers that regularly erupt, sending columns of water 5 meters into the air. Amboseli National Park. Amboseli National Park is a relatively small park located close to the Tanzania border at the foot of Africa's highest mountain, Mount Kilimanjaro. The park is famous for being the best place in Africa to get close to free-ranging elephants. The name Amboseli comes from a Maasai word meaning salty dust, an apt description for the park's parched conditions. Nature lovers have the freedom to explore 5 different habitats ranging from the dried-up bed of Lake Amboseli, wetlands with sulfur springs, savanna and woodlands. Other attractions of the Amboseli National Park include opportunities to meet the Maasai people and spectacular views of Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest peak in African continent. Now let's move on to an introduction to tourism and popular tourist attractions in Uganda. Uganda is another important and popular destination in Africa for wildlife and nature-based tourism. Uganda tourism has plenty of things to offer for visitors like national parks, natural tropical forest, waterfalls, trekking and mountain climbing, etc. Tourism is the 4th largest foreign exchange earner for the country. It is significantly contributing for country's employment and revenue generation. Uganda has some of the world's best preserved national parks and game reserves like Queen Elizabeth National Park and Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, which is also famous for gorilla tourism. Facts and figures about Uganda. Capital city, Kampala. Area, 2,36,040 square kilometer. Population, 3,59,18,915 according to the 2014 census. Languages spoken, Swahili, English, Luganda and other local tribal languages. Currency, Ugandan shilling. Popular tourist attractions in Uganda. Murchison Falls National Park. Murchison Falls, also known as Kabarega Falls, is a waterfall between Lake Kyoga and Lake Albert on the White Nile River in Uganda. Murchison Falls National Park is Uganda's largest national park. Murchison Falls became one of Uganda's first national park in 1952. The park is situated approximately 300 kilometers, that is 190 miles northwest of Kampala, Uganda's capital city. It is Uganda's largest and oldest conservation area, hosting 76 species of mammals and 451 birds. Murchison Falls Conservation Area is one of the oldest and is the largest protected area in Uganda. It houses a combination of grasslands, wooded savanna, tropical forest, wetlands and open water covering approximately 39,000 hectares at an altitude of more than 600 meters. The park houses 109 species of mammals including hippopotamus, antelope, giraffes, hartebeest, oribi and Uganda kob, 145 tree species and over 476 bird species. Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Located in southwestern Uganda at the junction of the plain and mountain forest, is known for its exceptional biodiversity with more than 160 species of trees and over 100 species of ferns. Bwindi was declared a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site in 1994. The national park was declared in part to protect a range of species within it, most notably the mountain gorilla. The park is most recognized for the 340 Bwindi mountain gorillas, half of the world's population of the critically endangered mountain gorillas, although it is sanctuary for the chimpanzees, many birds and the Columbus monkeys. Next is the Kasubi Tombs. The Kasubi Tomb site is located on Kasubi Hill, 5 kilometers from Kampala city centre along the Kampala-Hoima road. The Kasubi Tombs in Kampala, Uganda, is the site of the burial grounds for 4 Kabakas, that is, kings of Buganda, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Queen Elizabeth National Park. Queen Elizabeth National Park is understandably Uganda's most popular tourist destination. The park's diverse ecosystems, which include sprawling savanna, shady, humid forest, sparkling lakes and fertile wetlands, make it the ideal habitat for classic safari destination, endangered species including chimpanzees and over 600 species of birds. Mount Elgon National Park. Mount Elgon has the largest volcanic base in the world. It is located on the Uganda-Kenya border. The mountain's cool heights offer respite from the hot plains below, with the higher altitudes providing a refuge for flora and fauna. Mount Elgon National Park is home to over 300 species of birds, including the endangered lammergeier, small antelopes, forest monkeys, elephants and buffaloes also live on the mountainside. Kibale Forest Natural Park. Kibale Forest National Park is one of the best safari destinations in Africa for chimpanzee trekking in Uganda. National Park contains one of the most beautiful and with the most varying tracts of tropical forest in the whole of Uganda. This is placed to a number of forest wildlife, most especially 13 species of primate coupled with chimpanzees. Thank you.